Right, let's dive into a place you've probably heard of, but might not know that much about. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands.
Oh, yeah.
Today we're going deep, exploring how this unique archipelago, how it kind of sits as this fascinating intersection of, like, sacred stories and strategic significance.
Yeah, it's wild how these islands bridge those two realms, mythology and geopolitics.
Yeah?
They're more than just a dot on a map, you know?
Yeah.
It's a place where ancient tales meet modern-day reality.
And we've got some fascinating stuff to dig into for this deep dive. Historical accounts,
Cool.
religious texts, even some, like, first-hand accounts from travelers.
Oh, wow.
And get this, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, well, they might actually be part of the legendary Dandaka Forest from the Ramayana.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The Ramayana, one of Hinduism's most significant epics, tells the story of Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana's exile in the forest. Now, pinpointing exact locations from these ancient stories, well, it's tricky, but there are some compelling connections suggesting these islands could have been part of that mythical landscape.
It's like stepping right into the pages of an epic. India. A sacred geography describes Rama's adventures in the Dandaka Forest. Battling demons, protecting sages, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it really paints this vivid picture of this, like, kind of dangerous and really sacred space.
You know, and there's also this concept of Panchavati, a sacred spot,
Okay.
also associated with the Ramayana. Some scholars believe that Panchavati could be located on these very islands, adding another layer of spiritual significance to this already pretty fascinating place.
Yeah, so we're talking about a place that holds some deep religious meaning for many people, connects them to ancient stories, beliefs, the whole thing. But the islands are also home to real communities with their own unique histories, right?
Absolutely. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands are home to a variety of indigenous tribes, some of whom have lived in relative isolation for centuries,
Wow.
developing unique cultures, distinct ways of life, all shaped by the islands themselves.
And geography of India actually describes the terrain. Dense forests, rugged coastlines, pretty challenging stuff.
Oh, I see.
And that might have contributed to their isolation, the preservation of those distinct cultures. It's a good reminder that geography shapes not just the land, but also the people who live there.
It's amazing how the environment played such a huge role in shaping the lives and traditions of these communities. But then, the arrival of outsiders, especially during the colonial era, really brought significant changes to the islands and the indigenous people.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us to another layer of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands history, British colonialism.
Right. During their rule, the British, they established a penal colony on the islands, much like they did in Australia. A concise history of modern India details this. And this decision was driven by a few things: control over trade routes, a need to suppress rebellion, and the remoteness of the islands was a way to contain those who were deemed undesirable by the empire.
So these islands became a place of exile and imprisonment, a pretty dark chapter in their history. But what were the specific reasons behind choosing this location?
Well, control was a major factor. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands, they held a strategic position in the Indian Ocean,
Okay.
close to important trade routes. This allowed the British to, assert dominance in the region. And the remoteness, it made it difficult for prisoners to escape. It was a pretty calculated move to establish a stronghold in a strategically important part of the world.
It's a reminder that geography plays a huge role in shaping not just a place's physical landscape, but its history and destiny, too.
Yeah.
But this decision had consequences, right? What was the impact of this colonial presence on the indigenous tribes who already called these islands home?
It was, yeah. Sadly, as with most colonial encounters, the arrival of the British had a really profound and often devastating impact on the indigenous communities. Diseases, displacement, cultural disruption all became part of their story. And the echoes of that colonialism are still felt today.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that history isn't just about dates and events. It's about the lasting effects of those events on real people and their cultures. And speaking of the present, let's bring this deep dive into the 21st century. The strategic importance of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands hasn't faded, has it?
No, not at all. In fact, you could argue it's intensified in the modern world. The islands are still situated near those crucial shipping lanes and serve as a vital outpost for India in the Bay of Bengal.
So that old saying, location, 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 still rings true even in geopolitics.
Exactly. But this strategic importance also comes with some contemporary challenges. Diet Rothermond, An economic history of India mentions rising sea levels as a significant concern.
And the East India Company and the natural world highlights the importance of environmental conservation efforts. Balancing development with protecting these fragile ecosystems and the unique cultures of the indigenous tribes is, well, it's a delicate balancing act.
It's a complex situation, yeah, with no easy answers. And then there are the geopolitical tensions in the region, especially between India and China. The islands are caught in the middle of this, well, complex power dynamic.
It almost sounds like history repeating itself in a way. LIU. Why? The Dutch East India Company's tea trade with China describes similar power struggles back in the day, with European powers vying for control of trade and territory. The players may have changed, but that desire for influence and control, it remains a constant throughout history.
You're absolutely right. Those historical parallels are definitely there. So we've gone from ancient epics and sacred spaces to colonial prisons and modern-day strategic hotspots. What stands out to you most about the Andaman and Nicobar Islands?
For me, it's this incredible layering of history and significance. We have this mythical connection to the Ramayana, then the arrival of the indigenous tribes who carved out a life in these challenging yet beautiful islands, and then the shadow of colonialism and its lasting impact. And now these islands are at the forefront of modern geopolitical concerns. It's like seeing the past, present, and future all converging in one place.
I completely agree. It's a reminder that even seemingly remote corners of the world are connected to larger narratives and forces. What happens in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands has ripple effects that reach far beyond their shores.
And that brings us to a fascinating part of our deep dive. We uncovered some intriguing stories and details from our sources that I think our listeners would find captivating. For instance, Freedom at Midnight recounts the tale of Nathuram Godse and Narayan,
Who were involved in a plot to assassinate Mahatma Gandhi. They believed that a single person was all it would take to carry out the assassination.
It's a chilling reminder of the extremes that ideology can drive people to.
And a stark contrast to Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence.
On a lighter note, A History of Indian Literature talks about the complexities of Buddhist philosophy, specifically the Madhyamaka school's view of concepts like bondage and release, action and result, and even the self.
The idea is to challenge our assumptions about reality, to question the fixed categories we often impose on the world.
It's a good reminder that there are multiple ways of understanding the world, even something as seemingly fundamental as our own sense of self.
And that intellectual exploration and debate have been a vital part of Indian culture for centuries.
We also have some insights into the linguistic diversity of India. The Dravidian languages explores the evolution and features of
A language family primarily spoken in southern India, distinct from the Indo-Aryan languages spoken in the north. It highlights the incredible linguistic tapestry that makes up India's cultural heritage.
and the history of the Bengali language delves into the development of.
The Bengali language, which has its roots in Sanskrit but has evolved its own unique characteristics. It's fascinating to see how languages adapt and change over time, influenced by geography, culture, and contact with other languages.
It reminds me of how even within a single country, there could be so much diversity and richness of expression.
And that linguistic diversity is something to be celebrated, not erased. It adds depth and nuance to our understanding of the world.
Now, shifting gears a bit, we have a couple of sources that shed light on India's economic history. An Economic History of India talks about
The challenges of agricultural growth in India, particularly the issue of inflation. Even with increased food grain production, the country has struggled to keep prices stable, especially during periods of drought.
and A New Economic History of Colonial India highlights.
The stagnation of living standards for many Indians during the first half of the 20th century. It's a stark reminder of the economic inequalities that persist even today.
It's a sobering thought, and one that challenges us to consider how we can create a more just and equitable world.
We can't ignore the economic realities that shape people's lives, both historically and in the present.
Okay, let's talk about something a little bit architectural. Architecture of Mughal India takes us on a tour of.
The magnificent structures built by the Mughal emperors. From grand mosques to exquisite tombs, these architectural marvels showcase the artistic brilliance and cultural fusion of that era.
I especially love the description of Humayun's tomb.
A masterpiece of Mughal architecture, it served as a model for later structures, including the iconic Taj Mahal.
And the Cambridge History of India, Bengal, the British Bridgehead, Eastern India, 1740-1828, Volume 2, Part 2 focuses on
the colonial architecture of Bengal, which reflects the British influence on the region. It's interesting to see how architecture becomes a symbol of power and cultural dominance.
It's a reminder that buildings aren't just physical structures, but also embodiments of history, ideology, and social change.
They tell a story, often without words.
So from ancient philosophy and languages to modern economic challenges and stunning architecture, our deep dive into the Andaman and Nicobar Islands has taken us on quite a multifaceted journey.
It certainly has. We've covered a lot of ground, but it feels like we've only scratched the surface.
That's the beauty of a deep dive. It's all about sparking curiosity and leaving you, dear listener, with more questions than answers.
And hopefully a desire to learn even more.
Exactly. So to wrap things up, let's go back to where we started, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. A place where those ancient myths, they intertwine with modern-day geopolitics, where sacred traditions meet these, pressing challenges, and those unique cultures, well, they're striving to thrive amidst, all that strategic importance.
It really is fascinating how these islands, these seemingly remote dots on a map to a lot of people, well, they embody such a complex mix of history, culture, global significance, all of that.
It highlights how geography isn't just about physical location, right? It's about the stories embedded within them, the people who live there, the events that shape their destinies.
The Andaman and Nicobar Islands are a testament to, well, human resilience, cultural diversity, and the power of belief. From those legendary adventures of Rama in the Dandaka Forest to the survival and adaptation of those indigenous tribes against, tough terrain, colonial encounters.
Yeah, and they also kind of confront us with these sobering reminders, about the lasting impacts of colonialism, the complexity of trying to navigate a world that's grappling with climate change, geopolitical tensions, and that delicate balance between development and preservation.
Yeah. It's a microcosm of the challenges and opportunities facing the world today. The decisions made about conservation, development, international relations, all of that, in a place like the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, they're going to have those ripple effects, And those reach far beyond their shores.
So listener, as you continue your own explorations, remember that even seemingly remote places like these islands, they're closely connected to the bigger narratives of our planet. Keep asking those questions. Challenge assumptions, and consider how interconnected our world really is.
Yeah, and who knows, you might even be inspired to take your own deep dive into this captivating history, the diverse cultures, and the uncertain future of these remarkable islands. Until next time, keep exploring.
Happy day.